This is the Talking Sports Podcast with Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour right here on YouTube. Guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we have a very, very special guest. We haven't done an interview in maybe about 4 or 5 months. Today we are joined by Chris Caulk, former USC wide receiver walk-on who has an incredible story that will touch many lives and will also inspire a ton of young athletes. So guys, thank you for joining us today. And Chris, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we always appreciate people coming on and being our guests. But before we dive into today's content, JR, what do you got to say to our viewers?
Hey guys, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and that's at Talking Sports PD. Football season's coming around, so we're going to be giving you our picks each week. So follow us for that and check out our picks. And thank you. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, we really would appreciate us. Hit that subscribe button. Almost at 1,000. That's our big goal. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, guys, like JR said, our biggest goal, or one of our goals, is hit 1K. So also, if you don't like watching us on YouTube, make sure you check us out on Apple Podcasts. That's also in the description. But enough with that. Time for some questions. So Chris, start you off. So you grew up in San Diego, and was it one of your dreams when growing up to play for either USC or UCLA football?
You know, USC has always been like A1 goal for me since I was a freaking little kid. My dad went to USC, and so you could say that the indoctrination, so to speak, began early. But no, it was always been a major goal for me for sure. Like when I was a kid, I was going to Halloween dressed as like Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. So, and I didn't really get into football until later because I was always baseball. But USC football is something I'd always really loved.
Yeah, but we saw that in your senior season of high school. Unfortunately, you faced some injuries. How hard was that for you to be sidelined for most of your senior season due to a knee ligament injury? And where was your head at, and how were you able to overcome that?
You know, it was actually turned out to be a blessing because for starters, I don't even know if I can tell you this for sure, that Chris, who was playing, although I was like skilled to a certain degree at that point, like senior year, like that Chris is nowhere near where I needed to be in order to play at SC. So it took like those 2.5 years after tearing my ACL. It took every bit of those 2.5 years actually in order for me to develop, bridge the gap that I had, and then get where I needed to go inevitably to not just make SC, but, you know, just pro life rate while I was there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And yeah, this is kind of touching off that question. So you did tear your ACL. So how was that injury? Obviously, both of us, knock on wood, have not had any injuries at that level. But how did you injure your ACL? And then how was the recovery process? Because it's an 8 to 12 month, and I've heard it's not a fun recovery process.
No, it's kind of a bitch, I'm gonna be honest with you. So what happened was in the very first game of my senior year, this is my first game of like actual football too, because I'd always been baseball and everything. I just knew I could play football. So I tore my ACL in the very first game. I was like running a deep post route, playing receiver. And at that point, I didn't really know that there were some plays where you're just running the route for the love of the game, as one of my receiver coaches at SC would say. So I was running a deep post. And I thought like I could get this ball. Anyways, but I was just trying to clear out the safety. But anyways, so the boundary safety was closing in on the guy who had just caught the pass. It was a tight end. And I try and go up and like running up and trying to knock him, but he sees me and I didn't get there quick enough. We wrap up and then I plant off my left and I twist my knee. And then I feel like a guitar string pop in my knee. And that's how tearing your ACL feels. It doesn't hurt that badly, but the next morning it really hurt, like badly. That hurt badly. But the thought process behind that was like, I didn't know too much about it. I mean, obviously I'd only played baseball and that really doesn't happen a whole lot in baseball. But so I thought I was like, all right, straight, I could try and rehab, see what I could do for the rest of the year, maybe make the playoffs or whatever. But it ended up not working out like that because, like you said, it takes 8 to 12 months to heal it. So it ended up being one of those things where I look back on my story. I said, all right, had I not torn my ACL and my meniscus, like I would not have played at USC for sure.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of public knowledge, but you attended Mesa Junior College in San Diego, but you did not play football. Was there a reason why you did not play football, and why did you make the decision to leave Mesa and attend USC?
Yeah, so I went to 3 junior colleges outside of high school. So I went to Mesa was the last school I went to. So I went to Santa Monica, which is in LA, for a year. Then I went to Pasadena City for a semester. Then the second semester of my sophomore year, I went to Mesa. The reason why I didn't play at that point is because I got surgery my freshman year, right before my freshman year at Santa Monica. And it took, when you say like the 8 to 12 months, it took me 12 months, like to be 100% good to route run and everything like that. Obviously, you could, had I been at USC and tore my ACL, like I probably would have been faster. But just doing rehab 3 times a week, and at that point, not working out as much as I would inevitably be. The reason why I didn't play at Mesa is because it was for starters, I started there in the spring. As I transferred there in the spring, so it wasn't like there was a football season, and I kind of knew my route. I knew that I needed to like bridge this gap, so to speak, and the way I was going to do that was through like individual training with the receiver coach that I found in San Diego. Shout out Brett Swain, but it's just a shameless plug, by the way. But anyway, so and then getting where I needed to get physically, working out in the gym, putting on stupid size, because prior to that, I wasn't really in a position physically where I could compete at SC or even make the team. So it came down to just knowing my path, so to speak. And I needed to recognize where my path was, how I was going to get there. So I just kind of need to play my own cards and not focus on going and trying to do spring ball at Mesa or this or that, because that would have inevitably sidetracked me from what I knew I needed to do.
Yeah, gotcha. We noticed we heard you talking about this on another podcast. It's probably a huge moment for you in your life. But when you first got that call that you were officially a member of the USC football team, what were your emotions and feelings? Like, how did you react?
I was all over the place, dude. I was so happy. One thing that I haven't really emphasized in all the other shows is the wait time. Because I tried out on that Friday and I didn't find out until the Monday, which was Labor Day. So, and they told me they were going to text us on Sunday. And that whole weekend, I was just on pins and needles, just really, really nervous. So it was just nerve-wracking the entire weekend. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, damn, am I screwed? Like, I don't know. I mean, I was supposed to walk on in the spring anyway, so I was like playing with house money a little bit. But I had to figure, like, there's just got to be a reason. Glory to God for that. But it was nerve-wracking up until I got that text, and I was in Orange County, California, and I just remember getting the text, not even thinking twice, and just opening it. And once I opened it, I didn't even read what it said, dude. I just scanned for the result. I just looked for the result. And once I read the result, we want to welcome you to the team. That was that, I was like, oh my gosh. Got out of the car, started running all around the fucking drive-through. It was really something. It was one of the best days of my life. It was such a beautiful moment.
That's awesome. Did you have a feeling that you did really well at tryouts, or you just really did not know?
My thought process going into that tryout was I knew it would be a fate worse than death to get so close to my dream and not make it. Mm-hmm. So I figured that I didn't know who I was going to be trying out against or what the tryout was going to look like. But all I knew is that if I put myself in the position where if anybody out of that group, so to speak, got brought on, if I was the one that performed the best out of all of them, then I'd be good. That was my thought process going into it. So I knew I played well. Like, I didn't play to my potential, so to speak, but that's obviously, good enough to make USC football. So ended up working out fine, obviously, but no, it was definitely a little bit nerve wracking. It's like, shit, I wish I had gone over that bag faster, gotten in and out of cut a little bit quicker. But no, I thought I played fine. And dude, it's just the aspect that made me so nervous wasn't like my performance, but it was just really the nature of waiting on one of the biggest goals you could ever accomplish, at least for me.
Yeah.
Obviously having bigger goals in the future and stuff like that. But at that point it was,
Division I football is a huge goal.
And especially at SC too, dude. It was such a goal for such a long time. And I took so much shit for it from so many people that it just made it all the better.
You're right. And saying off USC is a powerhouse. Like you said, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart. They were an absolute powerhouse for many years, and now they're getting back to where most SC fans think they should be.
They need to pop
Obviously,
off.
right ranked in the middle of, what are they, 15? I think I want to say right now.
I think SC's 14.
Okay, yeah. So then you got UCLA right on knocking on your steps with the win over LSU last week. So
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that win. I don't know if LSU's that good. I don't know if LSU's obviously they haven't really been good since Joe Burrow. I don't know about that quarterback either.
oh, I agree. I don't think LSU's that good at all.
I think that win is like impressive, obviously, because an SEC team that was ranked number 18 is still impressive, But I think that win is a lot of smoke and mirrors. I really do.
No, I agree. I don't think LSU was anywhere near where they were with obviously the Joe Burrow and the Justin Jefferson team with Jamar Chase. That team was unbelievable how good they were. That might have been one of the greatest college football teams to ever step on a field. So
No, for sure.
they're very far removed from that team. So
yeah.
Kind of going back on track, but what steps did you have to take to be in the position you were in and then get the opportunity to be a walk-on?
This is the question that I've been waiting for out of all the shows that I've ever come on. Like, I've been waiting for this question specifically. I'm glad you asked it. So there are a lot of steps, but I'll try and break it down pretty like small, so that way, like, because to make it more general. First thing you got to do is you got to be really set on your goal. You got to be super, super set on it. So deciding to play at SC was the thing that happened the second I got off the operating table for my first surgery. I knew it at that point because I was kind of iffy about it. I'm like, yeah, maybe I play, maybe I don't. So I got really, really clear on what I needed to do. Then I kind of thought of it in a perspective because I didn't get like super serious because I was kind of a party boy and that kind of stuff at high school and then first year and a half of college. But, I was still working out and I didn't really hit my hockey stick curve, so to speak, until I cut out drinking. So you got to be serious about your goal. You got to have your goal and then you got to be intentional about your goal. So once you're serious about your intentional about your goal, you got to act. You got to be super, super committed too. So for instance, like, it was not easy getting denied by USC 3 times. It wasn't. It was not easy. So what you had to do is you had to focus on what you can control. For instance, like in the classroom, you got to do well in the classroom, at least as far as my story was going. I needed to do well in the classroom. I needed to do well in the gym, and I needed to do well in the receiving coach. And I just kind of had to let God take over the rest, at least as far as what doors I needed to have open. So, and I'm obviously I'm like a man of faith now because I found my faith through this journey too. But yeah, so you got to decide, you really got to get intentional and you just got to act on it, because if you put 10x action into your goal, you will get somewhere, and it's really, really difficult to stop somebody who just doesn't give up.
Yeah. So, I mean, being a walk-on, what is your role on the team, and like what is expected of you at like practice or game day?
Sure. So being a walk-on is an interesting one for sure. It's you are to a certain degree scout team guys. Like, it's invariable no matter where you are, no matter how big your program is, or whether it's as big as USC or like a D2 school. I can't speak to D2 schools, but I would imagine it's probably the same situation. But thing is, like at schools like SC, you got a ball. Like I mean, obviously all those guys pretty much can ball at SC, walk on, scholarship guy alike. So it's one of those things where you really got to embrace your role, even if it is just a scout team guy. And some walk-ons do get scholarships, but those are the guys like who really set themselves apart from the other walk-ons. There's one kid named Quincy, really good friend of mine. He was a walk-on, and then he ended up becoming lifter of the year and then got a scholarship. So it's that kind of stuff that, you got to really set yourself apart in some regard in order for you to get a scholarship. But, you are a lot, like, you're kind of giving guys the first team defense, first team offense, depending on what position you play. You're giving them looks. You're getting fun, like reps on special teams, depending on where you are. Like the new administration at special teams at SC definitely uses walk-ons more. Shout out to my guy Clyde Moore on the USC kickoff team now. But yeah, so you can be. It's a litany of different things that a walk-on can be in. Sometimes scout, sometimes regular. It just depends on where you are, how you fit in. It's really kind of multifaceted.
It sounds like you just kind of like set a good example and like show like you're just working for it, You gotta embrace your role, and you gotta earn your spot for sure. Because I mean,
there are a lot of walk-ons who like bitch and moan about not traveling or whatever and this kind of stuff. Like, oh, I would have gone to this school. It's like, do you realize where you are? Do you realize you're playing football at USC? Like, dude, I would just shut up, because the Chris that was working to get to USC, had he heard that, he would have taken your shit so fucking quickly. Like, I'm trying to, I don't really like cursing that much, but when it comes to like authenticity like that, you know, it's not the hill I'm going to die on, so to speak, but it's just a matter of fact. Like, I would have taken your shit so quickly, but you know, it's just is what it is, different people. But, you know, walk-ons are, I think, a very valued part of a school or program. Sorry.
I agree.
Yeah, kind of going off, and this is kind of going off that, but when you said this is kind of your role as a walk-on, like during practice and all that stuff, what was your role as a walk-on during game day, Saturday, whatever, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock kickoff? Like, take us through like your game day routine, because both of us have never, we've watched college football, obviously, but are never going to experience, never will experience how a game day works. But take us through your like, routine. You wake up before, when you go to bed, like what do you do during game?
So it depends on what, like, so obviously if you're traveling, you're gonna be at the hotel that night before, and then you're gonna have dinner with your team, and you'll have meetings and stuff like that on the night before, on the Friday night. You'll wake up in the next morning, you'll have meetings in the morning, you'll have breakfast, then you'll kind of just do like a smaller like walkthrough, like just kind of just in the hotel ballroom or something like that. And after that, you'll get changed in whatever SC has you wearing, whether it be a polo shirt that you're wearing, whatever it is. You know, everyone will be wearing the same stuff, at least as far as everything else is concerned. But after that, you get on the buses, you head over to the stadium. Once you get to the stadium, you kind of just take your shit, you go inside, you walk down like the bus tunnel ramp. Then when you get there, you're gonna go in the locker room. And this is like mostly an away one, but I'll take you through a home one after this too. But for an away one, you'll go into like your visiting locker room. You'll take off all your stuff. You'll either, you know, they have like all your pregame stuff. So for instance, it was like a Nike like cut off hoodie with your number and SC and shit all over. It was really cool. After that, you know, you just go out, you kind of run routes, catch passes, just throw, you know, catch them. That's the most fun part. And then you kind of just do that kind of stuff. Then you go in back in the locker room, you suit up, then you're doing full routes and full gear. And after that, you kind of just make the most of those opportunities. You do pat and go, and this because it's a lot of fun catching passes in front of like 60,000 people. It's
like
a lot of fun.
Music is blasting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, you know, your parents are there and it's a lot of fun. But after that, most walk-ons days are kind of over, because like it's obviously in a pejorative sense, but it's kind of funny. Like, I was a pregame All-American. So I'd make all sorts of one-handed snags and diving catches in pregame, and then I'd be done. So it's obviously a joke. I mean, I would love to get reps like that, but it is what it is. I did my best at SC, but home game's very similar, but at SC you have this thing called Trojan Walk. So you get on the buses, and then you come to the stadium, and then around like 10,000 people will be right around the buses. And then you get off, and there's like these lanes that take you into the Coliseum. You walk under the big peristyle, you go down to the field, and you get to the middle of the field, you say a team prayer, and then you'll go back and do the same shit you did as an away game. Either way, they're fun as hell. Like, those Saturdays were electric, and they were so much fun.
That walk sounds pretty sick. It probably gave you goosebumps.
Oh my gosh, dude! My first game, I got onto the field. Like, the second I touched the grass, I started crying.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's your dream.
No, that sounds awesome. So kind of going towards more of the USC staff. So how was it playing for head coach Clay Helton?
You know, I say this a lot, but every time somebody asks me at the restaurant, airport, wherever it is, like, what are your thoughts on Helton? It's one of the questions I get asked the most, to be honest with you. But my thoughts about Helton are like, I have nothing but good things to say about the guy. I respect him so much because he made my dream come true. Like, I'm so grateful to that, you know? And because like it took a lot for me to get to SC, like a lot of work and a lot of divine intervention, and glory to God for that. But he catches a lot of flack. I mean, obviously from donors and stuff this is how I knew USC football was like really big when I was there. Some donor rented a plane and had like a banner hanging behind it, flying all around the Coliseum against Notre Dame, and said "Fire Helton" on the back. And it was rough, dude. It was rough. I was like, holy shit. Like, this is big time. But no, it was awesome playing under Helton. Like I respect the guy a lot. I hope he does well this year. I really do have nothing but good things to say about him.
Oh yeah, for Clay Helton, this is a very, very big year for him. I wouldn't say he was on the hot seat. Because
Let's call a
don't
spade a
know.
spade. He is on the hot seat.
Okay. Yeah, so because I know obviously USC has a huge history and they expect excellence, like a lot of football programs do, but
That's so true.
up and down.
That's the reason why. Like if you don't, USC's expectations every year are Rose Bowl or up. You know, you better win the Rose Bowl or you better be going to what's now the playoff, or the BCS, you know, whatever one it was back then when SC was like popping off and winning natties all the time. But yeah, no, it's Rose Bowl and up. Like you really got to have those expectations each year. But yeah, so I mean, if he can deliver that this year, then I think all the voices kind of stop. I really do.
No, you're right. It's a Pac-12 championship, then it's the Rose Bowl, and then obviously now it's the playoff, and then eventually it's going to be the extended 8 to 12 team, whatever they do for the playoff, because it's going to happen.
I think it'll happen too.
It's going to happen. If you're going to say it's not going to happen, it's going to eventually happen when they get 8 or 12 teams. So obviously USC has those goals. But sticking with the USC staff, so besides Clay Helton, who on the USC staff were you the closest to?
I'm going to give a shout out right now. The receiver coach at USC, his name's Kerry Colbert. One of the coolest, most well-meaning guys I've ever met. And that's no cap. Like, I really love KC. I mentioned, I've gotten this question before too, and I love to answer it because I always give a shout out to KC. Like, he is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. He really, really cares about his receivers, and he really wants to see people do well. And the reason why, aside from the fact of football, outside of football, he gives a shit too. Like, he really kind of breaks things down in like global perspective to like smaller and like, okay, what platitudes can you employ in your life to be successful? Like, he would show us videos and talk about Kobe Bryant or like talk about like Adam Thielen's story. And it was just so helpful to think about, like, it is using those and employing those kind of things, excuse me, in your own life. And yeah, so the person that I would definitely say I was the closest with for sure. And then one of the most prolific people in that program is Kerry Colbert. Love KC.
I feel like that's like the one similarity between all like great coaches. It's like they care about off the field, even maybe more than on the field, you know?
Yeah, no, there are some things like he would just do that he just really gave a shit about us. Like, there's this one time that my last year at SC, we hadn't had this thing like wide receiver U, because with the implication of the air raid, implementation of the air raid, it was really, really like, there was some hype around that receiving core, and we were probably one of the best. We were one of the best in the country, definitely the best in the Pac-12. And it was cool because he had shirts made up with our numbers on the back, with wide receiver U and the Wu-Tang Clan logo in the middle. It was tough. Like, I still have that shirt. I still wear it like every now and then, but like it's been in my closet like for a while. But I do really, really appreciate that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's cool. Kind of jumping off that question, going to the players more. We were talking about a little before the podcast started, but what teammates at USC did you have the best relationship with and closest to?
That's a great question.
Or like had the biggest impact?
That's a really good question. I definitely say that. One of my closest friends from USC is Jordan Iosefa, number 56. He was captain my last year, and him and I just became really, really close. Like one day, I never really talked to Jordan a whole bunch, but one day him and he was having breakfast, and I sat down with him. And I said, "What's up, Jordan?" He's like, "What's up, Chris?" And we started having a conversation. And next thing you know, like later that week, we ended up going to Korean barbecue at downtown Atlanta. We ended up going to the driving range right before. So Jordan and I became really, really close. Another kid that I was like really, really tight with when I was there. That's a tough one. I would say that, well, there's a kid who walked on named Brad Aoki. Him and I, he was a quarterback. So he always threw me passes afterwards, and he'd always like, it was awesome because he was playing. They made him play receiver a little bit too because we were short on receivers in that year. But he wanted to pass at the end of the thing. I'm like, dude, if you want to throw me passes like every day, I'll be down. Yeah. So he threw me passes every day, and that was awesome. And then one more kid I'll shout out is Grant Jones. Grant Jones is he is a shit. Now at this point, I think he's playing tight end. He played linebacker, running back and tight end at SC. So they had him moving around a bunch. And Grant was one of the kids who I walked on with. He was one of the kids in that original tryout. And he played at De La Salle, and he's a really awesome dude. And I really like Grant. And I went to dinner with him a few weeks ago when I was back in LA. But yeah, no, Grant, Brad, and then Jordan for sure. Like I have nothing but good thing to say about most of the kids I played SC with. So like some of them could be interchangeable for people who I might be forgetting right now. But those are the three that stood out just on based off of the question right now. So yeah, Grant, Jordan, and Brad for sure.
Kind of going back to that, when you said your wide receiver coach made those shirts about how loaded that wide receiver room, who was in that room? Was that Michael Pittman? Was that St. Brown? Am I missing anybody?
Shit, actually, I forgot one more person. Your question has reminded me because I didn't even think about the receiver room. Devin Williams, he plays at Oregon now. Really awesome dude. Love Devin. So that receiver room was loaded. Like it was Michael Pittman, Amon-Ra, Tyler Vaughns, Drake London, John Jackson, Munir McClain. Who else is there? Devin was in that room. Brew McCoy was in that room. Who else is in that room? There's a lot of guys in that room. Holy cow. There are too many to list. Like there's so many, there are some serious dogs in that room. And that's why when people ask me, it's like, hey Chris, like, did you see the field? It's like, did you not see the fucking receivers who were ahead of me on the depth chart? Like half those guys are on an NFL roster right now. Drake London's getting looked at for the Bolitnikov Award. Like, you know, it's one of those things, obviously a joke, but no.
I mean, at least you could say you played wide receiver in a group like that, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'm talking to this one breeder for Cane Corsos because I'm going to get a dog in the next year and a half or so.
Uh-huh.
And I hit him up. I said, hey, I didn't even mention I played at USC. I was like, yo, I really like you guys. I followed you guys for a hot minute. I like your guys' breeding. Like, I love the way you guys like do your process. And then he hits me up like right off the bat out of his request. Like, I see you played at USC. Do you know Michael Pittman? I'm like, yeah, Michael and I were there at the same time. We both played receiver. He goes, I bred his dog for him. And then I started laughing. I was like, no fucking way. No, but yeah, no, that room was deep. That room was so deep, and it was a lot of fun to be into. Like, there are some characters in that room. I'll say that for sure.
No, you're right, because obviously Michael Pittman is a legit NFL. He's on the boredom of being a superstar receiver with the Colts. St. Brown was just drafted. One name that sparked me, Brew McCoy, was an extremely high recruit. So, and then you said Drake London, who's in for the best receiver award this year. So that obviously that receiving corps, it's tough to play with those guys in front of you.
Yeah, no, it's an uphill battle, but you know, you're in good hands with those guys starting first and second team for sure.
It's just one more thing. Like when you were like on the field with them, can you just tell they were like everyone was here and like they were here, or like?
I never equated that until I saw Amon-Ra for the first time. There was actually a round I was trying out and he was like doing one-on-ones or something like that. And he went up for a 50-50 ball, just corkscrewed it and just landed with both feet. And I was like, damn, he's just better than that guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was just good. And he bounced like shit. He had a dumb vert in that. I just remember seeing it and I was like, damn, he got up there. Mm. But to a certain degree, yeah, I mean, those guys like Michael Pittman's like starting for the Colts. Yeah. Like Amon-Ra he'll start for the Lions. Like these guys are really good. Like there is definitely a dissonance between for high and low man on the totem pole, so to speak. I mean, bottom line is that SC gets dogs, especially play receiver, especially play DB too. So I mean, you got to be kind of a savage to play there. But I will say for sure, like the guys who do start more often than not deserve to start for sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So this is kind of just something we've noticed in how you speak on your Instagram. We saw that you're kind of a very religious person. Were you always like this, or was there a moment in your life that kind of changed your view?
So I kind of grew up Christian, quote unquote. You know, you go to church every now and then, like you're baptized as a kid. But no, to answer your question, really, yes, but no. It was by no means the most important part of my life. Like, and you hear people saying like, oh, God first. I would have said God first when I was like 14 or 11 or whatever. But in reality, this wasn't the case because there were like, you know, just whatever. But it really didn't become clear to me. Like I faced a lot of struggles when I was at junior college and then through actually since the junior of high school. So kind of like went down, you know, like a lot of family stuff, you know, that kind of shit. and I'll keep it at that because I haven't really talked about it publicly, but there's it really kind of just became a point where test after test after test. And I felt like there was one day I was just looking at my dad's desk, and my dad had a study Bible from this movie he made. And my dad like just kind of had it out. My dad's wasn't really a Christian at that point either. But I felt like almost as if there was like a rope around my stomach, like around my waist. And I felt like I was being pulled towards it. And it sounds really corny, but I swear, like, hand to God, that's how I felt. And I said, one day I'm going to read that. And then as kind of life began to keep kind of downward spiraling, I said, you know what, today's the day. And I picked up the Bible and I started reading. And it was one of those things where I just came like, damn, ever since that day, I've read the Bible every day. So it became like, obviously you make the choice at that point, but it really didn't become like a full mind renewal for a little bit, because you obviously have like your old ways, and those kind of things can like prevent you from getting to where you need to go. But no, it was the isolated experience of reading the Bible, yes, but it was kind of a gradual like ascension into where I am now, at least thinking about it. And then I had the blessing of meeting this amazing girl who I'm dating now, and I was able to like help her develop her faith too, which was really an important part. Like, and that's kind of what I was like, it was right off the bat, like obviously she was a Christian too, but it was just something where we were able to work on it and work through it. Now it's really an amazing kind of like, it's building an amazing relationship. I'm very blessed to have it too.
And then that's awesome. But how did religion also help you achieve your goal to play, obviously, Division I football at Southern California?
That's a great question. I give all glory to God. I always will. But at that point, my faith wasn't like blind. I knew God was going to move. It was like, if you had asked me like, Chris, how are you going to get to USC? I was like, I have no idea, but I know I'm going to play. So that's I had no idea how, but it was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen, but I didn't really understand like the intricacies of it until later. And I know that I can use, like, God can move in my life. And obviously it's not supposed to be all good all the time. But as it relates to SC, it kind of gave me like faith that I know I could do it. Like I was so sure, and I know I can do these things and give glory to God and do these amazing like things in the world because of this experience at USC. You know, I can do big time stuff, help people all around the world. Some people I'll never know. And that's the beautiful part about it, to spread the gospel through that way. But yeah, it kind of gave me faith to like recognize like God can move in your life, and he will, you know, and he promises that. You're supposed to expect his goodness, you know, and he tests very interestingly. Obviously, if you look at the book of Job in the Bible, like Job had a lot, sent him down to nothing, and then he doubled it, you know, after he endured his test. So faith is obviously a very integral part in anybody's life. And I think that anybody who is struggling with it, and if anybody hears this in your show, like please DM me on Instagram. Like I will be more than happy to talk to somebody about it, because I can speak very succinctly about it too. I'm obviously kind of long-winded in this response because it's a longer question, but no, yeah, it definitely gives you purpose. And it's aside from the purpose of like obviously being saved, but the purpose of like using your platform and using your voice to help and spread the word and do amazing things in the world.
I admire that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So sort of to wrap it up here, what advice would you give a young athlete that's in your shoes right now, trying to play at the Division I level, probably not highly recruited? Like what motivation can you keep them? Will you give them? Yeah. What do you give them?
A few things. First thing that I would do is I would become very intentional and very clear about what you want. Next thing that I would do is I would be completely okay with everybody in your life doubting it, because it's a goal, aspiration for something that only you can see. It is working for an opportunity that is not promised. It's by no means promised, you're no means entitled to it. But if you put your blinders on, kind of play your own hand, because everybody can get caught up in, okay, this person's getting a scholarship, this person's going to this school, that it can get kind of overwhelming, and it can make you obviously be jealous and insecure, which it's normal, you know, but if you can use those jealousy and that insecurity for your own advantage and not let it consume you, that's how you use those kind of things properly. You can be angry, use your anger to fuel you, you know, like use your insecurity, like to make you work harder. So I would say that kind of stuff with that for sure. And then at the same time, you just got to grind, dude. You really got to grind. And I'm not a huge like grind culture person, because I think it's like, if you work so damn hard that you injure yourself, then you're not of any use to anybody. But you got to be so deliberate about so many things in your life: your diet, your sleep, your work ethic, who you work with, what you do in your free time. There's a lot of stuff you can do to improve yourself. So I would just look at it from a perspective, okay, this is my goal. How would I re-engineer my steps all the way to the point I'm at now, be completely honest with where I am, and then just take off from there. Because once you set your mind to something, I cannot emphasize this enough, there is not a thing in this world that you cannot do.
Yeah, thank you. And I feel like that's like a lot of people's problem. They always make a goal, but they never do and put action towards it.
Yeah. I mean, I read this book, Grant Cardone, say what you want about him. And I think there's a certain degree of like real estate intellect that he does have, you got to take with a grain of salt. But he wrote this book called the 10X Rule, and it kind of talks about applying 10X action to what you're currently doing. If you apply 10X action, you're going to get further than you would be if you're just applying regular action, because if you take normal action, you're going to stay in the same place. I know a lot of people who have really aspirational goals who aren't willing to either sacrifice or put in the actual effort that needs to be in order to get here. And, it's sad, but it's just what makes the world go round. So you got to apply 10X action. Action is one of the most imperative parts to a successful goal or achievement,
Definitely, yeah.
Oh yeah, I like the Chris. I like how your point is saying that even if people doubt you, like family members, friends, and all that stuff, because we're two kids from a small town in New York that have over 50,000 views on a YouTube channel. With
That's
so, like, and people are,
dude, you got to be okay with it. You got to be okay with the doubt. You really got to be okay with it. Like, the amount of times people said, I had a list on my phone that I brought out the other day that talks like almost, there are like, obviously there are so many more than I could ever write down. But when I think about it, like one of them that stood out to me, like I would write it down in my notes. And there was like, Chris, I would get really realistic about your USC expectations. I had my college counselor saying, Chris, you really will not do, like, playing at USC is very difficult. I don't think you could do it. There are kids who I played with at high school who laughed at me. Like, everybody at my high school laughed at me. Like, I went to, like, granted, I kind of gave them a reason to, because I wasn't nearly as like developed as I was, but where they lost the perception is where my ability to kind of get to where I needed to go, and all that in the interim. They saw me where I was, I saw myself where I could be, and my reality just hadn't caught up yet. And just the same way with you guys. I'm sure you have a lot of people talking shit about whatever, but it's just, you got to put your nose to the grindstone, use that kind of hate or, doubt, whatever you want, whatever synonym you want to use of that, use it for your kind of growth and take it in. There might be some truth to certain ones, but you just don't have to listen to it. Use it for your fuel, and then just keep going where you need to go.
Thank
hey
you.
Chris, you ever think about being a motivational speaker? Because man,
one day I want to, like I told you, like one of my purposes in this world, I really have gotten clear on it, is like, as I develop myself in like business and like public perception and stuff like that, I want to use my story and what I've done and where I'm going to and what I will accomplish to let people all around, like, to have people all around the world like take inspiration from what I've done. Because I'm like there's like, I do have a certain, like, I have been blessed to play at USC, and I do have like think differently than some people, like most people. And I want people to know that they can't accomplish anything. So maybe one day I'll talk when I'm more developed beyond just USC, I mean, bigger goals. Once I accomplish those bigger goals, maybe I'll have more of a platform to do it. So I will have more of a platform to do it. But yeah, so maybe just kind of help share my experiences, see what people think of it. That's kind of the goal.
No, 100%. This was truly amazing. We've never done an interview with this type of interview. We've done interviews in the past, but this is totally different. And for our viewers, hopefully they take away some inspirational stuff, some motivation stuff, and just a great total interview that we really appreciate you coming on and doing this with us.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. I truly appreciate it.
And guys, if you want to, like Chris said, reach out to him or talk to him about obviously playing Division I football, religion, anything that you heard in this interview. His Instagram will be in our description. So if you guys just want to click that, you can totally reach out to him. I know, Chris, you said you're totally fine with people messaging you on Instagram.
Absolutely. Please do. I welcome it.
Yeah, so guys, like he said, just go to his Instagram. It'll be in our description once this video is released. So, guys, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Jerry, you got anything else to say before we sign off?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And please, if you're watching this, please hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, we'll be posting football content, NFL season starting at Talking Sports PD, Twitter and Instagram. So hit a follow, and thank you for watching.
And Chris, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Guys, until next time, this was the Talking Sports Podcast with Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour. Have a good night.